USF1, Nikki here. We're going to do something a little different. We're going to review a show. We got the man, the legend, the producer, the man behind the camera here with me. And we are actually going to do a show review on a new show that's out on Netflix. What's it called, Boogie?
It's called Senna.
It's called Senna.
It's called Senna. And I was very excited about this show because I've been watching F1 for a while.
Okay.
And I liked Senna. I liked his battles back in the late 80s with Prost. And I thought it was going to be a really good show.
Okay.
So let's start off with you first. What did you think of the show? You loved it?
First, this is going to be, now I watched the whole show. You watched 3 episodes.
I watched the first 3.
We're going to try to review 3 episodes today. Hopefully I don't jump into anything farther. We're going to do the 3 episodes today. I absolutely loved it. I thought the first episode was a little boring. And then as soon as episode 2 and 3 got there, when they started getting more into the racing, I loved it. Now I know your take is totally opposite, so why don't you run me through that?
Yeah, I didn't love it. Now let me say that I love the idea of getting the backstory to these drivers. I think it's impressive. I really like the Drive to Survive on Netflix, and I like the idea of this show. I like to see the drivers humanized. I think the drivers have really good stories, and makes you like the drivers. I know a lot of people have like their favorite driver that they root for. I just enjoy the sport. I don't necessarily have a favorite driver. I like some drivers better than other drivers, but the fact that what they had to go through to get to F1 and their story of getting to F1, I just find fascinating and I find amazing. So I was really looking forward to this show, and I was a little disappointed in some of the technical aspects of the show.
Okay.
I think that their time jumps were a little confusing if you didn't know the story of Senna.
Okay.
But that's a little bit different. That's more of a from a filmmaker's perspective. So I'll try not to be too jaded from that aspect of things.
I remember when we went to the Sphere, so we won't talk about that. But
so I didn't like the time jumps. If you didn't know the story of Senna, it could get a little bit confusing on some of the time jumps that they did. So I wasn't a big fan of that. The one thing that really irritated me, I think it was in episode 2 when he was racing in the rain.
Okay.
And they kept flashing back to the go-kart.
Yeah.
And I understand the idea that they were trying to get, like he learned how to get good in the rain. And racing in the rain is really, really hard.
Yeah, as we've seen from that last race, San Paulo,
Same
thing. It takes the drivers, puts them on equal ground.
It equalizes the cars, And I've raced in the rain, and it truly is the great equalizer if you ever race in the rain, and it really goes to driver skill. And you have to be good in the rain. You really, it's a next level thing. It's a special skill to be good at driving in the rain.
And I think they showed Senna that though is like that's something he specialized in and was
he was
better
really
than
good.
Everyone else.
Well, I think the one thing that they showed is, and I equate this a little bit. I'm probably gonna get hate for this, but I think they equated it. I saw a parallel between him and Max.
Yeah.
Somebody who's so in tune to their car. The one thing that they showed that I really appreciated is when he was like, pull my straps tighter, because he wanted to feel everything. And you really need that feedback as a driver to know what your car is doing.
Yep.
So I appreciated that. But when they kept cutting back to the go-kart, they kept going to that well a little bit too much. And it was like, okay, I understand that when he was a kid, he put the time in to learn how to drive in the rain, and that's why he's good at it.
Yeah.
But they just went back a little bit too much. So it was like little nitpicky things like that, where it was like, okay, we get it. Move on. Show the race that he's in, not the race that he did, 20 years ago. So it was little things like that. So I'm just being a nitpicky little.
Well, let me ask you this, and this is what I think that they did great as far as cast of characters, how they did with the cast, the Senna, who they picked. Prost, who they picked.
Prost, the actor that played Prost, that was spot on.
Yes.
That was spot on.
As far as actors go, I think that they nailed it on that, the acting, and it was good. You could tell that it was ad-libbed a little bit.
Yeah.
That's fine. It wasn't nowhere near like other shows where it just didn't make any sense. So I did enjoy that. Now, if we get into the show a little bit, I want to get into the first girlfriend. Can we talk about the first girlfriend?
His first wife?
His first wife.
His first wife? Yeah.
Let's get into that because I think it put her in a bad light. Now, again, this is a show. We don't know if this is exactly how it was. What did you think? Because I think it made her look like a
I think they took a little bit of dramatic license, but yeah, I mean, she did not come off well. And
No.
Senna himself did not come off well in the first couple episodes either.
Doesn't get any better.
But we'll get into how the Senna character. But as far as her character, yeah, I mean, I didn't like, and I know it's true to form. You know, like he's going to go chase his dream. He's going to go to England for a year. You know, race F4. But he's only going to do it for a year. His dad made him promise to come back. You know, his mom wasn't happy about him going, but he goes, and, you know, his girlfriend at the time later becomes his wife. You know, I'm going with you. I'm going to support you. You're not going without me. I'm going to be there with you. We're going to do this together. She gets there.
That's a bad woman. In my thought, I
Yeah.
was like, that's a bad woman. I like that. That's
Yeah,
great.
you know, I like, you know, my wife supports me in my crazy dream, so I can appreciate that, you know. So she's like, I'm in 100%. She gets there, she's like, England sucks. I don't want to be here anymore.
It's cold. I don't like
it's
it.
cold. It's
I
rainy.
want
I
to go
won't
get
be
some
here.
sort of college degree.
Yeah.
And my husband could potentially be a multi-million-dollar F1 driver, and she
Yeah.
does not want to support his dream. And then eventually serves him with divorce papers.
Divorce papers.
It doesn't call. There's no phone call. They're just inside of a box that they send. So, you know, whether all that's true, I don't know. I thought, you know, she was beautiful, amazing. I mean, you're an F1 driver, so of course you're going to get all the hotties.
Well, he did in Monaco. He
So-
made up for it in Monaco.
Yeah.
You know.
What happened in Monaco? Which
I think he got a princess.
he did.
You know, he got a princess in Monaco.
If you're watching Senna as well, I will let you know. If your kids are watching, or if you're going to show your kids, there is some fantastic nudity.
Well, it was a European production, or I think it was South American production. Actually.
Yes.
I think it was.
You get a little bit of side boob, a little front boob, a little Senna butt action, which
Well,
and I like it. I
Here in
enjoy that
America,
kind of thing.
you know, we have no problem blowing people up or showing violence, but when it comes to, you know, sexuality, we're pretty prudish, which
Yes.
I'm not a big fan of. I think that, you know, America needs to lighten up a little bit and relax. You know, I mean, human body is a beautiful thing.
It is. I walk around my house in the nude, so
I
it
walk
doesn't
around
bug
his
me.
house in the nude. It's awesome.
So getting into, I think, well, one thing, you know, they went through, like you said, Formula Ford
Yeah.
for the show. They went through his go-karting escapades. I think they skipped the F2000s completely.
You're a fan of his. He made a guest
Yes, I am.
appearance.
He beat him
And,
in
Martin Brindle showed up,
Yeah.
you know, which if you don't know,
He's
you know,
the gentleman who says, lights out,
Yes.
and starts the race.
Yes.
So that was fun for me, hearing him, and seeing him, and then seeing Senna beat him, of course.
Yeah.
But they missed out on the F2000s. They didn't go. I mean, they mentioned it, but they didn't show any of it.
Yeah.
And then basically, episode 3. Can you bring me, what do you want to talk about in episode 3? Because I watched the whole thing, and I don't want to accidentally confuse episode 4 or 5, and spoiler alert.
Episode 3 was the biggest issue I had with the time jumps.
Okay.
Where, and they did a little bit with skipping, you know, some of his earlier career. And I understand they only have 6 episodes.
He's in F1 in episode 3.
Yeah, he's in F1. So in episode 3, they went from his first, you know, loss in Monaco when they called the race early.
Yes, which he was on team, what is that team called? Tauman, I believe.
Yeah, it was Tallman's. And then they called it, and the team was very excited because, you know, that was the best that they've ever done.
Yeah.
But they called it, and that just proves, so when people complain about the drama and the controversies that go on in F1 now, they've been going on the whole time. There's been F1.
Yes.
There's always been controversies.
There
There's
has
always
been.
been race directors, and you and Cookie are going to get in this when you do your episodes talking about controversies
Yes.
for races and race directors not doing the right thing.
The rain
and
director, the race director, yes.
and
I agree.
stewards going, you know, crazy and doing insane stuff. So it still happens today, but it happened back then too.
Yeah.
You know, and so the time jumps though, I didn't like. They skipped a lot of the stuff, you know, that they just kind of assumed that you understood that he went from, you know, Tallman to Lotus, and then
Next thing you know,
went over, he's on McLaren. And then they just do 1 year later, and they didn't really, And I felt that if you didn't understand or you didn't know the history of Senna, and granted, most of the people who are watching this are going to know who Senna is. Yeah. This isn't the same as Drive to Survive, where they're going, somebody who doesn't know anything about F1, come with us, we're gonna introduce your drivers to you. This was telling the story that they're assuming that you're going to have some backstory. And I just found it a little bit jarring that they jumped forward in time and didn't give a proper explanation of what those events that happened, which leads to, I think they made Senna kind of look like a bad guy.
Yes.
Because in episode 1...
Yes, I was going to say, let's get into that. They basically said when he was first supposed to potentially, if he won Formula Ford, he was going to get signed by Lotus. Right. So he was going to get signed by Lotus
because he was there and they were looking at him.
Yep. And then essentially, basically, what they say is he's not British.
Yeah, he's not British.
He's not British.
He's a South American driver.
Yep.
They have a history of being a hothead and maybe being a little bit hard to control.
Yep.
And it really kind of by episode 3. The way they did those time jumps
kind of proved
that, they kind of was like, oh, this guy's kind of a jerk.
Yes.
He's backstabbing, his team, and he's jumping around, and I get it.
He's going to the best. He's trying to go to the best team. So now, and this kind of, it's like Senna, and you go, and Max Verstappen, let's just say, when you are the best of the best, you kind of got to be, I don't care if it's F1, football, whatever it is, when you're the best of the best, you kind of got to be a little bit of a dick. Right? I mean, you have to be.
Well, I mean, if you're the fastest driver,
yeah.
You want to be in the fastest car.
Yeah.
And I get that, and that's always been the history of F1.
Yeah.
And this is revisionist history. Would he have been able to take Lotus to that pinnacle being as good as he was, or is he trying to get on the same team as Prost because he has a personal, vendetta against him, and he's trying to show him up by being in the same car, stealing Honda's engines.
That was awesome. That was cool. Honda was going to go to Lotus, and then he brings him over to McLaren as he brings himself to it too.
Yeah. So it kind of goes behind the scenes. So it's kind of it kind of proved what they said about South American drivers in the first episode, and it's like, he kind of did all the things that they said they was going to. I mean, they even show in episode 3 how he wrecks at Monaco because he's in the zone and he won't slow down, and he's 43 seconds ahead. Who's that sound like? Somebody who's 43 seconds ahead but has to get that fastest lap and is going to push it even though his team principal's like, hey, slow down, Max. I mean, slow down, Senna. You don't need to push it.
Yeah, but he's going to.
And then he pushes it anyway. And
they don't know. I think when you are the GOAT or you're a legend, like Verstappen's going to be, like Senna is, I think they don't know how to not push it. So when you tell somebody that that's all they want to do is win and be the best, they don't know how to not push it whatsoever. So I like the show. I can't wait to watch. I can't wait for you to watch the last 3. Before we go, is there anything else you want to get into the first 3 episodes of Senna that maybe we had missed that is good besides the hot first wife and the amazing hot princess? Because, man, if you're an F1 driver, you can get anything.
Reporter. We'll see how it works out with the reporter.
Yeah, the reporter
we know how it works out because we know how history works out. Yeah. But
I think we like the reporter because maybe we're a little older, and so is she too. So she was.
They definitely did a good job casting the reporter.
Yes,
that's for sure.
But
it was interesting to see. I know we got to wrap this up, but it was interesting to see how he used the media. And I think he was one of the first drivers that really understood, because they even showed in episode 1 where he was working with the camera guy, and he's like, give me those pictures. I want to post my story with my words and my way, which drivers nowadays, they have the advantage of having social media. So they can get their information out of there and they can say what they want directly to the public. Max, George battle going on right now. But they can tell, they couldn't do that back in the 80s. You had to go through the media, and it was the reporter. So the fact that he had some reporters that he actually could game a little bit, I think that was trend-setting in and of itself. And of course, Senna, he was an amazing driver. He did a lot for the sport. I don't want to make it sound like I'm not a Senna fan. I mean, I respect him.
Yes.
And respect what he did. But the show, if I had to rate the show so
I was
far,
gonna say rates 1 out of 10. What do you give it?
I'm giving it right now with everything.
Because you're only on episode 3, so you really can't.
I'm on 3, so we'll see how the last 3 pan out. Maybe it'll change for me, but right now I'm at like a 6. It's a solid show.
It's actually better than I thought. I'm going to rate it an 8, just because I love how the Netflix beginning starts. It gets me going. Anytime I see racing, the beginning starts where the car goes.
Oh yeah,
that's fantastic. You get to learn a couple things, like his nickname is actually Becco. Is what his parents gave to him. I think when he was 4 or 7 years old. So they're calling him Becco a lot. And I did not know. I thought it was, I can't even pronounce his first name. Or they said it a bunch of times. But Senna, and then it's actually, they were calling him De Silva a lot. And I was confused at first because I didn't realize his name was Senna De Silva. So I'm like, who is this? And then Becco. And then you just get to learn a lot about the character. I think they did great at casting the characers. And I love me a little side boob and a little front boob action. So
they did a good job humanizing them.
Yes.
And that's the important thing. Is the more that you humanize these drivers and you realize that, and any athlete in any sport, they all have stories of what they had to overcome. I mean, you don't get to be the pinnacle of whatever sport you're in without facing hardships and overcoming. I mean, nobody gets it handed to them. And I know we make fun of him a lot. But even
Lance
Stroll? Yeah, even Stroll had to earn it.
We don't make fun of him a lot.
Okay. Maybe I'm not like the huge Lance Stroll fan, and I don't think that he would still be in that seat if his dad didn't own the team. Okay. But he had to earn that seat originally.
Yes.
He had to overcome. He is a good racer. He is in the top 99%. He's better than 99% of the people in the world. Problem is when you get to that level, you're racing everybody else who's in the top 1%.
Yeah, so you got to up your game.
Yeah, he's just not quite that good. But what he had to do to get there is still impressive.
Yeah.
Like any athlete. So I really like the fact that this is out. I really appreciate.
Yes.
The idea behind it. Would I have done things a little bit different? Yeah, probably. But who am I? I'm just some guy.
And I'll say this, Drive to Survive, I believe if you watch Drive to Survive as a person that has you have no clue what F1 is, I think that will actually possibly turn you into an F1 fan. Or you would want to watch F1. Now, Senna, on the other hand, I don't think I think Senna was more made
for fans
for
of F1.
The F1 fan.
Yeah.
So that would be...
I would agree with that.
Okay.
Speaking of Drive to Survive, do you want to review that when it comes out in a couple months?
We're going to review that.
We're going to review that?
We're going to review that.
We'll see. Maybe it'll be me. Maybe it'll be Cookie. We'll see.
One of us will be here to do it.
He'll be here.
It's hard to get Cookie. He's a busy man. He's got some kids, and I have kids too, but I watch. He's not a TV guy, so it's kind of hard for him to sit down and watch these. I've been wanting to watch Drive to Survive for a while, and he hasn't. But if I can get him to watch the new one... I know for sure, though, us 3 for the F1 movie, we're going to watch that. So we're going to make him watch that.
Yes.
But we'll come back next week with the last 3 episodes and review those.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining US F1.
Cookie loves you.